Welcome, everybody, to the Monday Night Tours. We are your guides to the magical journey that takes you through the Monday Night Wars. I am your host, Josh Kaiser, and I am joined today by Kyle Hoagland. How's it going?
Oh, it's going pretty well. I mean, I know you and I kind of talked about it beforehand, but man, this NFL football playoffs is really heating up.
Yes, it is. I don't know if you're referring to the Jim Harbaugh nearly winning a Hail Mary touchdown pass with the Colts and the Steelers in 1996, or if you're referring to the fact that the Vikings just won on an unbelievable play against the Saints here minutes before we started recording.
Can I say it's 50-50?
Yeah, that's fair. It must have been a hell of a game there with the Colts and the Steelers, though, because both broadcasts mentioned the Jim Harbaugh Hail Mary that almost was. So I didn't get a chance to go back and look at it, but I'd like to see if there's a highlight of that to see how close the Colts were to winning that game.
And I think both shows also gave an homage to the December of 1995, critically acclaimed movie Waiting to Exhale. I believe that was also on both shows.
Was that on both shows? I know it was definitely on Raw. I do remember that.
It was Nitro as well.
Well, there you have it, I guess. But that said, Kyle, we're hot into 1996 now with the wars, and this week we're going to be discussing the January 15th episodes of Nitro and Raw. As you remember last week, things are really heating up as far as viewership. We reached the 3.0 mark for Raw. Nitro is a 2.8, so a lot more fans are starting to tune in, Kyle. And how can you blame them with the action that we've got going on?
You okay? You sound like you were laughing or choking.
It was actually like trying to hold back, like I was about to burp. So I was like waiting to exhale, and it slipped out.
But no, yeah, I agree. It's 96 is getting hotter and hotter, and I mean, and like I said, I think we mentioned this last week. I don't think that the digs between the two companies is going to get any lighter as well. So yeah, it's going to be a very interesting year now that it feels like it's becoming personal between both companies.
That it is, Kyle, and it couldn't get any hotter because Nitro is down in Miami, Florida this week. And we are live. We get the shot of the Miami skyline, and then we cut to the commentary booth, Kyle. And Pepe is wearing a polka dot ascot and sort of like a little painter's cap. And Mongo doesn't explain why. And I think this might be the one time of all of them that I really needed an explanation of what the outfit was and why he was wearing it.
And I did mention something. I said I think that the reason why they're doing that, I think they're now turning up the heat with the Miami Heat, if you will, that they don't want to be thought of as like a kid show anymore. And I feel like the whole here's Pepe dressed up in some silly outfit is like, look, I think the show is moving away from that, which is kind of sad. I think now Pepe is going to be there, but not much longer, or at least not have his own like 30 seconds of fame that we usually are used to. So I think Pepe's contract with the WCW may be up soon. That
would be a shame, but as long as Mongo went with him, we'd be okay. Of course, we know. I got
bad news for you.
Yeah, bad news. Chicago Bears. Right?
This guy over here.
Because Mongo played for the Bears.
Because he played for the Bears.
All right, that said, Kyle, with the commentary booth talking about Sting and Ric Flair, they're wrestling for the world title tonight, so we've got that to look forward to. And the Dungeon of Doom are going against the Four Horsemen, so there's been some dissension among them, so maybe they'll get their issues resolved tonight. And then we're going to head to our opening match, Kyle, and as the match is getting introduced, we find out 40 minutes prior to this, Macho Man has gotten himself a number one contendership, so whether Sting or Flair win that world title match, Macho Man will be wrestling them next week on Nitro, so WCW really just giving us world title shot after world title shot every week. As for the other titles, they're meaningless, but the world title, every week on Raw or Nitro, we're seeing it.
And I'm not sure if that's like a great formula. I mean, for TV, it's good formula, but I feel like for us to tell a story, how are you supposed to hype like a main event when there's nothing to hype when there's a new person going after the title every week?
And they always end without a
DQs.
title change. Yeah, so it's almost losing a little bit of its luster, but we'll see how tonight plays out. That said, Lex Luger will be wrestling Macho Man, the number one contender for the world title. And Luger comes out without Jimmy Hart, Kyle, which I thought was interesting.
It was, and then Heenan said that the reason why is because he was in the back with Flair strategizing for their match against Sting, which it makes no sense to me. I understand that one time Hart asked if he could be at ringside to be there when Flair wins the title when he did not on that particular episode of Nitro. But Luger is, as far as I'm concerned, Jimmy Hart's number one guy.
Right.
He is wrestling the number one contender for the world title, which makes you think that if you're able to get a victory over Macho Man, which
you have
also
a play for the world title, right?
Right, and the commentary I think also wanted to stress that Luger has not lost to Macho Man yet. He is undefeated against Macho Man since coming to WCW. Right. I think he's 3-0 in his matches. So either Luger was like, Jimmy, you can just stay in the back. I got this one. I got Macho's number. But it still just seems strange. Like this would be the one match that you'd want your manager out there watching your back.
I agree. But he's not there, Kyle. And I kind of thought that this match, for the amount of time that Luger and Macho have been sort of wrestling, I still think that they've got a lot of feud going on here. And I thought that this should have been hyped up a little bit bigger than just like surprise Macho Man versus Lex Luger tonight on Nitro. But that said, Kyle, the match starts out. There's a lot of outside battling. I think at one point Heenan says 5 or 6, 7 minutes of the match has been taking place outside of the ring. Of course, it was more like 2 minutes, but my highlights for this match involved mostly Randy Anderson, I think.
I had my notes that Randy Anderson decided that he's now defected to the Dungeon of Doom this week.
Yeah, they were battling in the corner, and he kind of like just split them up, like kind of dove in between them to stop them. I mean, he got in the way a lot.
He did, and once again, you would think that at the beginning of a match, Randy Anderson just let everything go. We must call him Miles Lane or whatever the heck that guy is from Celebrity Deathmatch, because Randy Anderson just did you just name drop the referee from Celebrity Deathmatch? I did, because he always says I'll allow it. That's like his catchphrase. Remember? So
I much like a lot of things from 1996. I don't remember Celebrity Deathmatch that much.
Really? I'm surprised you now. But anyways, before we get too far into talking about Miles Lane, at the very beginning of the match, Luger tries to pull a chair and tries to use it on Macho. And to me, if I was a referee and the bell has already rung, and one of the participants decides that they want to throw a chair at whether or not it hits them or whatever, that's a DQ. You threw a chair into the ring, and I understand Macho caught the chair and didn't do any damage, but you tried to strike your opponent by throwing a chair at them. Like that's the match. I feel like that's it. But no, the match does continue as you just keep, as it would be. And it gave Luger actually the opportunity to go in there and attack Savage, because once again, Randy Anderson tries to hold back Macho because Macho was mad that he got a chair thrown at him, and he looked like he was going to hit Luger with the chair as well, and which caused Randy Anderson to get between them, and then Luger takes care of it. But as far as the rest of this match, I don't have a lot of notes with it either. I really can't understand how these two guys, this is their fourth match going against each other. The chemistry's not there with these guys.
No, it's really not.
I don't know if that's Luger or if that's Savage. I'll always just default to Luger.
Right.
But yeah, what you were saying something?
Oh, I was just gonna say, ultimately, Kyle, this will end with Macho Man missing an elbow drop and Luger cleanly getting him to tap out to the torture rack. So not Luger is 4-0 against Macho Man. Macho Man is the supposed number one contender, and he just jobbed cleanly to Lex Luger, and Lex is a guy who has won mostly not clean and has beaten guys like the American Males in matches where Jimmy Hart had to help him. So it just does not look good to Macho, I don't think.
No, it doesn't. This made Macho look really bad. Like Macho, he gets a title shot next week, jobs to Luger in 5 minutes without Jimmy Hart's help. It seemed like Hacksaw Jim Duggan had a better chance of beating Luger than Macho did. And if people were wondering, maybe Luger will be in the world title contention. No, he's not. He's not going to be, which then makes this even more weird. That Luger is still this like floater, and I think there's like I feel like he's involved in every angle with a face in some watered down way, which in the end hurts Luger because they don't want to push any angle forward any more seriously, but they still want to give Luger work. He's got a bit of a grudge with Hogan. Obviously, him and Savage are probably the biggest in contention, being content with each other. But now he's now got a tag team with Sting. It's just like he's all over the damn place. And I gave this a 1 3/4 stars match because I'm not saying I really had a problem with the match itself. I just don't understand what they're doing with it, what they're doing with Luger. I get maybe that they want to give Macho, maybe he just looks like he's weak going into his title match, but there's so many questions, and I just didn't really care for how it was handled. So 1 3/4.
I agree. I had 1 3/4 as well, ultimately for the booking decision on it. Mm-hmm. After the match, Kyle, we're supposed to get our Four Horsemen versus Dungeon and Doom match, which we find out is actually going to be a tag match. I kind of thought maybe it was going to be like a four-way or like an 8-man tag or something, but it's supposed to be Taskmaster and Hugh Morris versus Arn and Pillman, I believe. Mm-hmm. That said, they all come out together, Kyle. You get Taskmaster, Hugh Morris, Jimmy Hart shows up for this. He can't show up for the Lex Luger thing, but he comes out for this. One-man gang comes out holding the United States title, Kyle.
We now know what it looks
the biggest thing. Yeah. Zodiac's out there, and then they come out with the Horsemen, who are all suited up, with the exception of Brian Pillman, who's wearing like a belly shirt and some jeans.
You know what, before we go any further than this, do you understand that somehow the U.S. champion, One Man Gang, he has the second most coveted title in the company, and he got less of an unveiling and plug than the Yeti for the Dungeon of Doom.
Yeah. He got the Chris Benoit Four Horsemen treatment, basically.
He most definitely did, and it's even more egregious because this is your U.S. champion.
To be fair, though, Kyle, he is the first time he's the first U.S. champion we have seen who's come out with the title. So, I mean, they gave him that.
And he didn't even get like a chance to speak. I understand he's in the Dungeon of Doom. He's basically the only people that talk on that are either going to be the Giant or Sullivan, right, and Hart, obviously. But as far as I always see Hart as like a liaison more than a member of the Dungeon of Doom.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
So you basically get Mean Gene, of course, coming out here to see what's going on. Gentlemen, we were promised a tag team match. What is going on here? And they start talking. Arn Anderson and Kevin Sullivan basically start having a chat with each other. And I think Arn actually yells at Pillman about how this is a business meeting. You're supposed to dress appropriately. And
because business meetings happen in the ring.
Right, exactly.
Yep.
And basically, Arn says that no one can win this war between the Horsemen and the Dungeon. He says there's no financial gain for either of us by wrestling one another, which, Kyle, I know you had a problem with.
Yeah, I mean, I love it when they say something that there's no financial gain in wrestling. Like, other than the fact that you're being paid to wrestle, like that's your job.
Right, that is literally your job, right?
I assume. This is the reason why billionaire Ted, you're not supposed to give guaranteed contracts, because when you do that, if they don't feel like wrestling, they don't have to get, doesn't matter, they get paid anyways.
Right. Sullivan gets on there, basically says he respects Flair for everything he done. He might be the greatest champion of all time. He respects Arn Anderson. There's a reason he is the enforcer of the Horsemen.
Oh, hi, Chris Benoit.
He says, yeah. He says that the Giant can be, you guys can borrow the Giant for Flair's tag partner at Champions,
Clash of
Champions. There we go. And, but he says Pillman, basically isn't Horseman material. He doesn't respect him. He's a loose cannon, the whole ordeal. And Pillman goes to say something, and Arn Anderson basically slaps the hell out of him. And, that's basically it, Kyle. They're all buddies, and there's no match tonight. It's another one of those segments where there started to be a little bit of storyline. Isn't there? And they kind of put the kibosh on it. But I will say there's still something lingering with Pillman, whether it's a turn on the Horsemen or if he's still going to cause some issues with the Dungeon of Doom. And that might be the most interesting part about this whole ordeal. Oh,
and I only say I don't think it's going to be that big a deal because I do know, looking ahead, I know that Pillman's days in WCW are kind of numbered at this point as well. I know he doesn't stay with the company that much longer, so I know they're not going to really hold on to this. But once again, this is WCW. They might think that they have a really good angle. They'll do it for one day and then just drop it the next week. So who knows? There are so many different – at this point, Pitbull Pittman has one of the longest lasting storylines of the show. But it is interesting. I don't remember how far it goes. I don't see it lasting too much longer. I will say, though, that Arn Anderson does back up Pillman first. Because he does say, hey, he's still a horseman.
Yeah.
He's still important to the team. And then that's when Pillman jumps in and starts talking his crazy, like, raspy trash that he does. And then that's when Arn slapped the taste out of his mouth. So yeah, it's an interesting idea. I just, once again, outside looking in, I don't remember this really taking off too much.
Yep, and then the commentary booth basically says, I don't know if I believe that everything's kosher with everyone, but we'll see. And then they kind of nonchalantly talk about Hogan being in the main event. And as they go to commercial, they're coming back from commercial, I sat there and I realized, Kyle, we have Sting versus Ric Flair, two of the biggest stars from WCW.
Of that brand, yeah, WCW.
Of that brand. Even with Hogan there, they're still two of the biggest. It's your world title match. And I just heard Hogan's in the main event, which means they're going to be thrown into some mid-card level of this show. And that means Hogan versus Meng is going to be your main event, Kyle. And I'm like, maybe I heard that wrong. We'll wait and see. Spoiler alert, that is the case.
How insecure is Hogan that he's got to be the main event? When he fought Hugh Morris. Because once again, I think right now his matches have been, unless it's been for the world title, which I feels like that's the only thing he'll agree to. He's either going to have a squash match against a Dungeons of Doom member, or he's going for the world title,
or he's in some mixed tag with like Sting,
with all the
Lex
with all the guys, yeah. But yeah, it is strange. It just smells like insecurity from Hogan's side. Like, I want to be the main event. It's like, well, dude, we have a world title match with the two probably biggest stars that are not named Hogan. Like, what makes you think that your match at the end is going to be what should be considered like billed as the main event? And in the end, Hogan gets what he wants.
That he does. And the fans get what they want, Kyle, because Public Enemy are in WCW. And they said they were supposed to be scheduled on Nitro a couple of weeks ago, but because of the blizzard, they didn't make it. I don't remember them at all talking about that, so it's almost like Bischoff is announcing something that nobody knew, but here we are, Public Enemy versus the American Males, Kyle. And I had to laugh when the American Males started coming out. They cut to the crowd, and there was some older woman who started stripping and dancing. She was really into the American Males, and it was a bit much for me.
Say if they're not gonna block that, I mean, as the two most risque things that are on that show are apparently Mongo and his potty mouth that they have to keep on keeping in check, or some random lady in the crowd that just might be one to show maybe it's weird because I've seen this before on a couple episodes of Nitro where it looks like that's their way of trying to be edgy and sexy, is like having some girl look like she's gonna wink, or like it looked like she's gonna. I don't know. It was just a weird. Yeah. I don't know.
Well, Bischoff has two words for you, Kyle, and that's drop kick. And that's what the American Males are going to bring to you tonight. And Mongo says, Heenan with a head shaped like a hubcap. That doesn't mean you're the big wheel around here. So that might be my favorite Mongo quote of the year so far.
We're only in January.
We are only in January. This match, though, Kyle, it's basically... I thought for the most part, American Males kind of got dominated most of the match. Public Enemy had a few moves in here and there. You heard some ECW chants in the crowd. And I swear at one part, they made a tag with each other, Public Enemy did, and the one guy didn't get into the ring.
Yeah, Grunge tags in Rocco Rock, but Rocco Rock never actually gets in the match.
Yeah, and so then I was sitting here, I'm like, oh, maybe like nobody saw it, but them and the refs, so they're gonna like play that into their finish. But nothing, it never happens. It was like they like high-fived each other and forgot that that's like a legal tag in a tag team match. So I'm glad I wasn't the only one who noticed that.
This is also the second match in a row where someone got like legitimately clotheslined or thrown over the top rope, and there was no DQ. So maybe, and also the commentators never mentioned anything about it.
So maybe after Starrcade they eliminated that rule altogether.
Hopefully,
finally. We'll see. Ultimately, the Public Enemy is gonna win with the Schoolboy as they pull on the tights, literally right in front of Nick Patrick. It wasn't like when you pull on the tights, you hide that from the ref, like the ref's around the other side, and it's supposed to be like an added way of winning. But it's
if Nick Patrick can't see that the Shark is lying on top of Scott Norton, he's not going to see a handful of tights.
Yeah, I guess not. Kyle, I gotta admit, I gave this 1 star. This might be the fucking worst match I have seen in a while on Nitro. I hated this match and everything about it, from the booking standpoint to the finish, everything.
Yep, this actually is the lowest grade I think I've ever given. I don't think I've ever given a star rating. I gave this a 1.25 stars. It was poorly choreographed. Like I said, I was just too busy. Like you said, I was too busy being distracted by the fact that Rocco Rock got tagged in, but never actually went in.
I kept waiting for that to play out. It didn't. Oh my god, this match just made me mad.
And then once again, like I said, Grunge shouldn't have been allowed to stay in the ring, let alone pin Bagwell. So once again, this be shitting on Nick Patrick. Go back to school. Also, both members of Public Enemy just looked like they were way out of shape. They were shitty in the ring. And maybe that was the reason why Rocco didn't want to get into the ring, because he didn't want to get exposed on, cable television. So yeah, 1.25 stars.
After the match, they do get the tables that Public Enemy is well known for. They stack 2 on top of each other. They put Bagwell on top, and I don't remember, Rocco, I think, maybe does the 360 kind of senton to send Bagwell through the 2 tables. That might be the best spot of the entire segment, and that's it.
Yeah, that still didn't save the match, but at least, you know what? If they would have started that, I would have been much better if this was a DQ with them just doing it as the spot at the start of the match. I would have given this a higher star.
I agree.
If they didn't even have a match, it was just like we're introducing them, and they don't even have a match. It's just they blow through the American males in a this match never even happened type of deal. Right. I wish they did that instead.
After that, we get a Slim Jim commercial with Macho Man, and then we get our world title match, of course, here in the middle. And we come back from commercial before this match starts, Kyle, and Heenan is like rambling and like stuttering about some chef job that he almost got hired in for, and said something about Jimmy Johnson, and it was like ignored and comment. It was like one of those, I don't know if you noticed it or not, it just like happened, and it died, and then Sting came out.
Yeah, I didn't even notice it. Like you even saying that, I just got completely. The only thing I was thinking about the entire time was Sting was coming out first, which is weird because Flair always comes out first. He has come out first for his world title matches the last two times. So I just found it very strange that now it's Sting coming out first.
They do drop a Clash of Champions promo, of course, highlighting that it looks like Colonel Parker and Sherry are going to get married at the show. And then, we've got our Sting versus Flair match, Kyle, and this was a pretty good match. I have one note I have of it, though. Sting stopped at 8 punches in the corner.
That's literally the first notes. I said, who does turnbuckle punches and stops at 8? Fucking Sting.
That just, come on. Who does? That's a heel move right there. You don't stop the crowd from getting to 10. You just don't do that.
I'm gonna say because the worst. Nothing makes the crowd seem stupider than yelling 9 and there's not a 9th punch.
They do. It's a lot of typical Sting and Ric Flair spots that you see throughout the match, but you could tell these guys have great chemistry with each other. And at one point, Sting superplexes Flair, and Mongo says, "Anything that gets that high in the air, you better get some peanuts and a drink." I don't know what that means. I literally do not know what that means. I think
what he means, like you're in a plane and you get free peanuts and a drink on the airplane because you're that high in the air.
Oh my god, that makes perfect sense. Yes. Okay, thank you for explaining Mongoisms.
Mong-splaining.
God, man, that makes so much more sense. Oh. To think I was
good job, Mongo.
To think I was questioning Mongo for that.
Also, did you hear that we find out during this match that Sting and Luger get a tag title shot after having one tag match victory?
Oh no, I didn't catch that.
Yep. Okay, they're taking on Harlem Heat next week.
Oh, that might be I know the wrestling on Saturday night, which we'll get to shortly.
Sure.
We do come back from commercial, Kyle, for Super Brawl, which will be happening in February, and it looks like all the past, present, and future champions will be wrestling.
The funny part about them doing it at that time was they literally just talked right before they went to commercial about how they're giving away wrestling content for free, whereas the other company is going to charge you an arm and a leg. They go to commercial where it's like, order Super Brawl February 11th. They're like, that just seems like a weird thing to say after you just touted about how you're giving away top-notch
free
stuff for free.
Yeah. Speaking of giving away for free, Flair's ass is given away free for half the crowd during a shot. And Heenan quips about they wrote a song "Moon Over Miami," which made me laugh, and I thought that was well done by Heenan. They ultimately Luger will come out, Kyle, to argue with Jimmy Hart, who of course is out here supporting Flair, and Sting gets hit with the megaphone when he's up at the top by Luger, as Luger and Hart are kind of tumbling on the apron.
Which, by the way, right in front of what was it, Randy Anderson, or
he watched it happen and looked at Luger, and Luger's like, I don't know, and Randy Anderson's like, okay, and then Sting gets a 3 count in the figure 4 because he's knocked out cold. I felt like a disqualification should have taken place there. It's not.
Maybe it's because Luger and Sting are best buddies. Like, maybe that's just like lets it happen because it wasn't like a heel doing it. Right. I don't know what the rules are. I don't know what the 90s wrestling rules are, what they learned in ref school.
I don't either. I gave this 2.5 stars. I enjoyed the match. The finish was a little strange. It probably would have got a little bit stronger of a rating if it wasn't for that. But overall, solid match.
They can do a 3-star match in their sleep, which I would have actually given this. I actually really enjoyed this match overall. But I do give it 2 3/4 because once again, they don't know what to do with Luger. WCW will stop at nothing to create the can X face, trust X face, Z face, or whatever the fuck Luger is right now. And it's because now that we know they have a tag title match going on next week, they're gonna push that to death. Oh my God, can Sting and Luger coexist on a team now that this happened? It's the same song and dance that we've mentioned on every single episode of Nitro. But this whole towing the line of face and heel, I'm actually kind of getting sick of it. 2 3/4. And once again, like I said, not to take it away from Sting and
the match
Flair,
itself, it was
because like I said, they could sleepwalk a 3-star match.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That said, after the match, Hogan and Macho Man kind of come in and clear out the ring because there's a lot of shenanigans taking place. Mean Gene comes out. We've got Hogan, Macho Man, and Sting in the ring now. Mean Gene wants to sort things out, Kyle, like he likes to do. And Hogan says, hopefully that megaphone knocks some sense into you, that Luger basically screwed you. Macho Man gets on there and says, I've been saying this since day one. You can't trust Luger. And Sting basically says, I have a concussion, bro. Who hit me? And they said it was Luger. And he said, I don't know. I'll have to ask him in the back about it. Because apparently they do ask questions in the back now instead of out in front of it with everyone.
Yeah, so Luger was right.
And then, yeah, right. Hogan says, though, Kyle, that he's been on one heck of a roll. So everybody
let's go over what Hogan has done the past 4 or 5 weeks. He has been on suspension. He was not on the last pay-per-view. I think he beat Hugh Morris before he actually got suspended.
He beat Arn Anderson last week with a leg drop in that tag match. Was that last week?
Okay. Yeah, I think it was. But once again, I'm like, what defines a roll when most of the time where I feel like I've been on a roll lately, like, once again, you were not on the last pay-per-view because you were suspended. You didn't win the world title when you had a chance to against Flair. You then won in a tag match the next week. You're going to take on Meng. We know you're going to fucking win. But still, I don't know if I'd call that being on a roll. I think literally every other face has had been on a bigger roll than Hogan.
Right. But except for Macho Man, who he says has lost to Luger 4 times in a row. So basically Hogan thinks that he should be the number 1 contender, not Macho Man. Says, Macho must have paid off Nick Bockwinkel, basically. Hogan thinks he's got the better chance. Macho Man says, we'll see you in Vegas because they're supposed to be tag partners. So now is there dissension amongst Macho Man and Hogan, Kyle? A question we ask ourselves on a weekly basis.
I just don't understand. I understand this whole Hogan's still supposed to be a mega face, right? We're still assuming that he's still a face.
Correct.
Because he's acting like a selfish. It seems like every week now he's complaining like a heel, like he's a selfish asshole. And I think the sad thing about it is that we know by now that he wrote his own material. Like when he came out, he thought that this was something that the crowd would enjoy, was him acting like a dick. And also Hogan mentions that the name is still on the belt. That his name is still on the belt,
which is
and
probably
I'm not
true
shocked.
and unreal. Yeah.
It's crazy. But yeah, the big thing is, can Hogan trust Macho for the 12th week in a row?
Right. I'll tell you what's on a roll, Kyle. It's the storyline, can so-and-so trust so-and-so? That's what's on a roll.
Yeah, absolutely. They're the biggest role of all time.
After this, we get our Saturday night promo, Kyle. We find out Hogan's going to be talking, so we'll have to find out what he's got to say. Sting and Luger will be teaming up, so hopefully there's no hard feelings over that megaphone shot that happened tonight. They'll be teamed up against Harlem Heat. And then, Kyle, of course, Jim Belushi's going to be on Saturday night.
Is this now just an interview show?
I don't
like. What is this?
I am
is Chris
lost.
Farley after this, or is Chris Farley already dead?
Chris Farley,
at this
I
point?
think, may be dead at this point.
No. It's not. He died in 1997 because it was the 20th anniversary just a few months ago.
All right. Well,
so 97.
Well, Jim Belushi, Kyle, he's going to really light up the ratings there for Saturday night.
Absolutely.
After this, Kyle, we're going to our main event, Meng vs. Hogan.
Why?
The only bigger question, Kyle, is why did Meng and Kevin Sullivan attack a camera guy? And like they cut to him and they see like a guy's on the ground. He's got a WCW shirt on, and they both kind of like step on his head and kick him. And nobody says anything about it. And then he's like attacking him again, like as the camera pans out, and Bischoff like comments on it like 30 seconds later, and I'm like, what was that? It was so random and weird, and they didn't call it out till later. It just felt so, I don't know, like not part of the plan or something.
Well, once again, they weren't. It was almost like Bischoff and the commentator were too busy talking about whatever they thought was more important than being in the moment when that happened. I was actually very surprised they didn't immediately be like, "Oh my God, Meng and Sullivan are attacking a photographer." But no, they didn't. Bischoff half-assed talked about it like a minute later when it wasn't even like the camera wasn't even on the photographer anymore. Like that moment had come and gone.
Oh, it was gone. Yeah. And then Hogan, of course, he was just in the ring for the interview, so he's already out there waiting, right? Nope. Now he's coming out again. I don't know why they do this on a week-to-week basis.
Into a chorus of silence from the crowd.
They said that I think they mentioned that he's been on a roll, and Heenan says he's been running on dumb luck for years, which just makes me laugh how much Heenan hates Hogan. This match, Kyle, there's really not a whole lot to say about it. Ultimately, Hogan will take that spike, the golden spike that Meng uses to cheat to win, and he'll hit Meng in the throat with it, and then proceed to shove it down Meng's pants. I think this is now, isn't it the second time Hogan has put his hand on another man's pants on Nitro?
It's at least the second, but I'll go with 3.
Okay. So he will win for that, and I don't think I even had I don't even have a star rating here, Kyle. I forgot to rate this match. I'm going to say it was less than a 2-star match, so 1.5, 1 3/4. It really wasn't that good of a match. Anything you want to add about this match?
I don't know. The only thing I had on here was I think Hogan picked or wanted to wrestle Meng because he just wanted to have a light match. Because anytime where you have the shoulder massage of death as one of your moves, Hogan was like, dude, I'll do that. Hogan barely had to sweat in this match.
Right.
I think the thing that I really didn't like about this match, 2 things actually. Hogan gets hit with the spike, but you wouldn't have known it because the camera work was horrible, and you didn't even see Meng do it to Hogan.
Yeah, no, you didn't. You just heard the announcers mention it.
Right, and then that's when Hogan, hulks up. And you think that, okay, he's hulking up. He's going to do his normal shtick of couple punches, big boot, leg drop, you win, right? No, he cheats by hitting Meng with the spike and wins. No leg drop in a Hogan match, which makes you already feel cheated. The crowd actually was surprisingly receptive to the ending of the match, which I think was horrible because this whole – also, by the way, the blatant cheating and a handful of Meng dick was brought to you by 1-800-COLLECT. And
I always love seeing things like that. Like, oh yeah, 1-800-COLLECT. I forgot that was a thing.
Yeah, I remember using that once or twice in high school. But yeah, I gave this 1 3/4 stars. It was an ending I wasn't expecting, but maybe I should at this point. I just can't stand the whole idea of he already had Meng beaten. He already had him with the leg drop. Nope, Sullivan wasn't trying to stop the match or anything like that. He just decided not to go for the leg drop and just decided to cheat anyways. Like, that's what I don't understand.
Right.
So it was just a weird booked ending where Hogan had the match won, and instead of winning like the hero he's supposed to be, he uses a foreign object.
Yep. After the match, I think there's going to be some interference from the Dungeon, but Macho Man comes out and quickly saves Hogan for that. So maybe there's not trouble in Team Hulk.
Wait, can they be trusted though?
We'll ask that question again on Monday. For now though, Kyle, we closed out the show in the commentary. They said maybe it looks like they settled their differences, but they still don't know what's going on. Don't forget, Macho Man will be wrestling for the title next week against Flair, Kyle. And also don't forget this Saturday, Jim Belushi on Saturday night. That's Nitro. What'd you think?
If it wasn't for the Sting Flair match, which was not the main event, let me make that clear. The show overall actually was kind of a dud. There were definite flaws in those matches, from Savage questionably continuing to job to Luger, which is giving him no momentum for next week's title match, to Public Enemy looking like shit so bad that not even a stacked table spot could bring it back, to Hogan winning a match and yet still thinking he should cheat to get over with the crowd. I'm not saying the show was bad or really bad, but it was definitely a few steps back compared to what they have been doing. I mean, yeah, you did have the big 5 all-in matches, but it's starting to get a little overplayed, and it wouldn't hurt them to highlight a few other people, which I think is the reason why Nitro decides to go to 2 hours pretty soon in the future.
Yeah, I agree. This was one of the weaker shows they've had recently. Some really bad booking decisions, some really bad matches, with the exception of the world title match that was kind of shoehorned into the middle of the show. It was an okay Nitro, but not one of their better ones. Maybe their worst one of January. Yeah, probably their worst one in January. Which
once again is only the third? Oh, I guess it was the third
show.
Yeah, okay.
So now we'll go to flip side, Kyle. We'll go to Raw. We open up with a little Martin Luther King promo from Vince, reminding you that long live the dream. So it must be Martin Luther King Jr. Day today. And then we get a warning that this episode is going to contain actions of a graphic nature. This is a first for us, Kyle, so I'm very curious what that meant. And they cut over from that, and it's Sunny in a dress, a lot of kind of cleavage on the dress, laying on a pool table. So I'm like, oh, maybe that's the graphic nature that they just kind of threw in there. And then we move in. There's a little promo to remind us that the main event is Undertaker versus Isaac Yankem. And they also discuss that Goldust and Razor might be having some words tonight. Yeah, as they showed Goldust got a Razor Ramon tattoo drawn onto his chest, a little razor with a heart over it. And they cut to Doc Hendricks, Kyle, who says Razor will be here. He's on his way to confront Goldust. He will be in the arena tonight. So we've got that to look forward to. And once again, there'll be more Billionaire Ted skits, Kyle. So a lot to get to here in this week's Raw. And our opening bout, Marty Jannetty versus Owen Hart. And the match itself was, was about what you expect. It was pretty entertaining between the two guys. More of the commentary discussion, Kyle, was a lot of Royal Rumble discussions, like what happens if Razor's, what happens if Diesel and Shawn are in there, or maybe Shawn Michaels has to fight his old partner, Marty Jannetty, or, all those kind of things. So they talk a lot about that. And King actually mentions talking about the Razor Ramon Goldust thing, which they're pushing hard tonight, Kyle, because this is the go-home show for Royal Rumble. I should mention that. He talks about how Goldust signed Razor up for the Panty of the Month Club. So that was nice of Goldust, I thought.
I felt like, if you either get a gift or you don't get a gift. I mean, right. That's my thoughts. So yeah, exactly. whether or not you like the gift, I've gotten a lot of Christmas gifts I didn't particularly like, but I still appreciate.
It's still a gift. It's the thought that counts.
Exactly.
Yeah. While I enjoyed this match, Kyle, the crowd did not. I don't know if you noticed the front row, but but they were like all like half awake, hands on their faces, laid back in the chair. Like if this is a cell phone era, every single one of them would have been on their cell phone surfing. Nobody gave a shit about this match. Ultimately, Kyle, they do a kind of a reverse bridge pin for an Owen Hart win, which was kind of different. I gave it 2.5 stars. I got to say I enjoyed the match.
I gave it 2.25, and the reason why was because I agree the crowd didn't care for it. This match really doesn't have any story going into it. This was just kind of just there was nothing to really enhance. I do give credit to that. I don't think we really knew how this match would end or who would actually win. I would assume it would be Owen, but then again, I thought Owen would win through some heel tactic.
Right.
This was a very clean match. And so that was another thing that kind of surprised me and actually kind of turned me off a bit, because all that basically did was kind of, I wouldn't say bury Marty, but the whole point is that both guys just went back and forth. And usually the job of the heel in a match is that they're in charge of, conducting the match, and then the heel is there to, kind of rev up and kind of make that comeback and fight back. And then whether they win or lose is whatever. But that really never happened in this match. This was a very evenly matched back and forth. You really couldn't, make sense of it. And usually a match like that is usually a match that might be for a title or something that has something more on the line. This was just a regular, just not even a grudge match. It was just a match. And so I assumed that because of that, Owen Hart would win, but maybe Cornette gets in the way or Owen does some sort of cheating to do it. But no, clean win. I did enjoy the match. I didn't like the psychology and what was actually done to tell the story. So I gave it 2.25.
Okay. After this, Kyle, we get Todd Pettengill, who says, "What's up?" to everybody, which I
get it. 90s.
Yeah, total 90s.
By the way, I'm looking everywhere on eBay and on Amazon or anywhere where I can find that Doc Hendricks mural. If I can find that thing, I will put that in my new house. I might be single, but I'm going to have that fucking mural.
But you would have that Doc Hendricks mural to look at, which is okay, Kyle. And, of course, Pettengill basically promoting the Royal Rumble, which is coming up this Sunday. And he says that this Rumble is going to be bigger than TLC's Waterfall with a One-Eye Lopez or whatever her name is. Which,
Jesus
again,
Christ, dude.
More 90s shout-outs.
That's all. That Pettengill's job right now is to be the hip guy that's like, hey, don't worry, we got one guy in this company that is cool.
Right.
With him wearing his olive vest or whatever the shit he was wearing.
Hello, fellow kids situation here with Todd Pettengill. But
yes.
He's the Michael Cole of the Twitterverse of this 2017-18.
I do appreciate as well that he's also the I believe he acts as the tech support for pay-per-views, because he has a lot. When they first hired him, his job was basically to be like on like Superstars, he would like explain to people how to order shows on pay-per-view. like that was like a lot of his spots.
Right.
And in this one, he's explaining like, hey, just so you know, 30 minutes before the pay-per-view, there's actually now going to be a the free-for-all.
The free-for-all, yeah. Which, of course, it's something they still use to this day. That whole offering free programming, a kickoff show of some sort, right? So it's on the preview channel, which shout out to the preview channel, which is no longer a thing.
Yeah.
But you could watch, 30 minutes, and they said basically people are going to be choosing, lottery balls of where they're going to be drafted into the Royal Rumble, and there's 2 blank balls, and the blank balls, those 2 people are going to wrestle during this free-for-all. The winner will be the 30th entrant, and the loser will be the number 1 entrant. So, pretty good stipulation, I would say, to get people to watch the free-for-all, to be honest. I think that's
I actually kind of wish they still did that. I kind of like the idea of knowing kind of who number 30 is.
Right.
And who's number 1 is, and then you can and then pepper in like where the shocking, like, oh, there's a guy we haven't seen before or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I know that sometimes people like to know, nowadays with the Royal Rumble, whoever's number 30 is like shrouded in mystery.
Right.
And maybe it's for a good thing or not. But in the world of the internet, we know for the most part who the surprise entrants probably are going to be. We're not really shocked too much most of the time. So I think that this actually would have been a really good stipulation now, is to have a match where loser gets 1, winner gets 30.
Yeah, fair enough. They do cut to a Diesel promo, Kyle, who basically says good luck to Sean. And I know they said it's Vader time, but you better set your clocks because it's going to be Diesel time. So, not your best work, Nash, but it'll get better for you.
It will get better.
Then we get the 90s Vader promo where he's in the Rocky Mountains doing jumping jacks or something. And they discuss that two people who will not be on the cast of Friends, Kyle, Jeff Jarrett and Ahmed Johnson, will be wrestling this Sunday at Royal Rumble as well. So let the 90s references continue to flow, Todd. Never stop with them.
Let's also go over the fact that this is the Rumble report. And so far, the only thing that he's talked about is the Royal Rumble match and the World Title match. We still don't even know. I mean, we know Goldust is fighting for the Intercontinental title. It has really not been discussed on the show, on the Rumble report. Neither is the tag titles, which I just found very strange. That like I know later on the show they will
announce
pepper it in.
But ultimately, Kyle, the Royal Rumble, you're there for the Royal Rumble, and you know that that Hart and Undertaker are wrestling for the world title. It's been brought up before, so you kind of know where the card's going. They cut back to Doc Hendricks, his partner in crime, and he confirms that Razor is on his way, which was pretty much worthless.
We already knew.
Thanks, Doc. Nothing.
Doc did this like 5 times where they go back to him like, I just got word, I got a big update that he's in his car now. Like,
right.
We don't need to know this, Doc. Let us know when he's here.
Right. Then we cut to Sonny, who is now basically showing us a lot of cleavage and says something basically it's all about being raw. So more little sexual sort of shots of Sonny. So they're kind of using sex now to sell the show, I guess. Then we cut to the debut match for Stone Cold Steve Austin, Kyle, or at this point the Ringmaster.
Hey, what's more important is the debut of his opponent.
That's what I was going to say. His match, of course, it's a squash match, Kyle. His enhancement talent this week, the one and only Matt Hardy. I got to love this shit. Like, I had no idea that Stone Cold's first match on Raw was going to be against Matt Hardy. And it's just funny to see how far both of these people have come. And at the time, it's just, the Ringmaster beating up on a guy who was wearing blue tights that had the letters HV on the back. I have no idea. Hardy something, I'm guessing, but I don't know what the V stands for.
I actually thought that he didn't have tights, and they literally just gave him those tights. Like they were someone else's tights.
And naturally, Kyle, this match is going to be a squash match. They basically talk about billionaire Ted and how he was angered about his portrayal as a hillbilly in a bad suit in the recent skits that they've been showing. So apparently that was in some newspaper today or something like that. And this classic heel work match for Austin. He will ultimately win with the sleeper, Kyle, which is
the $1 million dream.
Right.
Thank you.
I gave us a 1.5 stars. It is what it was, a short squash match.
I actually gave this a 1.75 stars. I actually really enjoyed the match for what it was, because you can already tell in this match that the Ringmaster Austin you could tell he has the talent.
Oh, absolutely.
You could tell right that he definitely could do handle a match very, very well. Matt Hardy just looked like a bumbling buffoon, which I thought was really funny. He looked really awkward. He like any offense that he tried doing just looked completely almost forced by Matt Hardy, and it was just a really strange thing to see. Also, knowing what he would later become, a pretty good wrestler, or I wouldn't say a great wrestler, but a better than average wrestler. And who would ever thought that this loser gimmick of the Ringmaster would spawn probably the biggest drawing star in the history of wrestling?
It is amazing. After the match, Kyle, we do get a promo for Shawn Michaels because we're contractually obligated, I think. And I think all it was just a bunch of spliced cuts from all the previous promos that we've had for Shawn Michaels. And then it ends with him, basically talking about how he's going to win and him and his fans are going to celebrate a world championship when he goes on
how about his hair?
I was going to comment about the outfit he was wearing at the end, but the hair just went right with it.
Didn't you have that haircut when you were about that age, like 94, 95? I feel like you had something close to that.
Parted look. I think it didn't help that he must have tied it back in a ponytail or something like that. But yeah, it was, I don't know, something about him there at the end. He just was not looking his best.
Yeah, he didn't look like, the sexy boy I'm used to. Let's put it that way.
Let's just leave it at that, I guess.
Yes. Goldust would not have enjoyed this version of HBK.
This is true. Kyle, we go to commercial, we come back, and we're in the middle of the Spiders versus the Smoking Guns. This was incredibly bizarre. This is the first time we have ever joined a match already going on in the
that we didn't get to see the beginning of.
Yeah, this was weird. And we find out during this 30 seconds or so that we're going to see this match that the Smoking Guns are going to be defending their titles at Royal Rumble against the Body Donnas, who probably don't deserve to be the number one contenders for the tag team titles, but
especially because the Body Donnas consisted of Sonny and Skip.
Yes.
So who's the other guy?
This was weird to me, but I guess Sonny's. I guess that's what they get. The Body Donnas get for having Sonny basically whore herself out on this episode of Raw.
That's what I thought too. Yeah, like she's gonna walk around in cleavage, but at least her guys are gonna get a tag title shot.
Right. Of course, the Guns will win this match with their little sidewinder.
Sidewinder. Yep.
I didn't even grade this match because it doesn't deserve to be graded.
No, it wasn't. I actually, if I had to, I would have said a quarter or 3/4 stars, and the reason why I say that is because who the fuck are the Spiders? What's this like? What was this match? What was this match? I love that when I was watching this on the WWE Network, all you got was a dot that said the finish of Smoking Guns and the Spiders. Like, wait, what? There was a match.
Yeah, exactly. And that was just weird.
It was. Once again, it's like that doesn't deserve to be on television. I think that's the thing that I don't like about it is that what was the point other than like that's literally all the Smoking Guns got to show off in the go home show for the Royal Rumble.
Little fun fact for you, Kyle. You know how we did the Aldo Montoya last week and found out he was just incredible?
Yeah.
Guess who the Spiders are?
Oh my God, what?
The Headbangers.
Oh my God, really? Thrash and
Mosh.
What's the other guy's name?
Thrasher and Mosh.
Thrash, that's right.
Yeah. So,
dude,
there you go.
Tag champions right there.
Tag champions. Gotta love that. So I guess there's something worth talking about in that match. After that, Kyle.
1 star. I give it 1 star then.
There you go. We get our Billionaire Ted skit, Kyle, and basically it's a very short one where Ted says, I bought a network, I bought a World Series, I bought a wrestling federation. Why can't I buy the WWF? And they tell him it's not for sale. And that's more or less the extent of what's going on there. And they try to say that Huckster should be a sexy boy. And it's all about the same. It's just kind of rehashing the same jokes they've been making in the previous ones. I really hope they improve on it going forward, but they probably won't.
I just didn't like the dig they made about, they can only get the disloyal has-beens from the 80s. I think that was a quote from Russo when he was there, which I thought was just like maybe, I don't know about Hogan, but Randy Savage was about as loyal to WWF as anybody could be. WWF turned their back on Randy. And Randy he thought he had more in the tank, and they disagreed. They threw him on commentary. Even Randy did like a kind of like a shoot while on commentary, saying like he wants to be in the ring. He thinks he deserves to be in the ring. They never do. He says, "Hey, I want to wrestle." And WWF says, "Well, if you're going to wrestle, you got to wrestle somewhere else because we don't think that you're drawing anything anymore." He left and went somewhere else, and now they're going to call him a disloyal has-been from the 80s. I think that's kind of rich. That's all I thought about during that whole thing.
There you go. Those are fighting words from Kyle over here, getting fired up about these Billionaire Ted skits.
Randy Savage isn't alive anymore to
defend himself.
Defend himself from something that happened 20-some years ago.
Fair enough. After this, Kyle, we get the Vince McMahon's in the ring. He's going to interview Goldust, and of course we get Jerry Lawler talking over it. So always love these moments. Goldust comes in and kind of touches Vince a little bit. And the reactions and the facial expressions I saw from Vince there, God, it's really a glimpse of the Mr. McMahon character in the future. I don't know if you got that or not, but I just saw it there. I'm like, oh, I can't wait. Can't wait.
Oh yeah,
to see that.
I that's all I thought of too, was just that scowl on his face, like almost like, oh my God, Vince looks like he's just a born heel.
Oh yeah, absolutely. He says basically something to Goldust about how you prey on the fears of the homophobic men. So you could see that they're starting to I think they're starting to backpedal a little bit on this, and as we get further into the night and some of the comments they make, I think this is where they got some backlash about Goldust's character and how it painted gay men in a bad light. So they're trying to make it sound like, hey, not all gay men are like this, and this Goldust is trying to use it to his advantage. He's more than just a gay man, right? So Goldust comes back and asks Vince if he's got a microphone in his pocket or if he's just happy to see him. And then he talks about how he wants Razor so bad, calls him the bad guy. And I think it's King that says Goldust is here, and he might be queer, but he's going to be your future Intercontinental Champion. So
get used to it.
Basically, right? Not a bad. It was a quick promo, Kyle, but I thought it continues to push this Goldust character into another a deeper level than he's already been, and I think he's quickly becoming one of the big heels of the WWF.
He's polarizing at the very least,
right?
And one thing I understand they probably have to do, and I don't know if maybe that's what they said, is the graphic. I don't know if the graphic is the combination of talking about homosexuality in the 90s and also Sunny. So maybe
my guess is it's more the Sunny stuff, but I think the Goldust stuff can be wrapped in there in some ways too.
But I think you and I both also agree that, like, if you literally have to go on air and apologize for gimmicks or try to like backpedal and say, "Oh, just so everyone understands, like, he doesn't represent the gay community,
right?
He's just doing that to make head games, guys." Like, that the gimmick is not very good, or it wasn't the right time to have this type of gimmick at the time that it was. So, I mean, I can already tell if I was an adult going into this and seeing this happening, I would feel bad for Dustin, because this gimmick is good. It's a very good gimmick,
right?
And it's gonna get hit with opposition, and you gotta stay the course. And I feel like they're already backpedaling after only a couple weeks.
Yep. After that segment, Kyle, Doc Hendricks is in the back and he's ready to talk with Razor whenever he sees him.
Thanks, Doc.
Yeah. Then we get Undertaker and Bret Hart Royal Rumble promo, reminding you that is a world title match that's taking place at the pay-per-view. And then finally, Razor Ramon comes through the door. Doc Hendricks is right there. Razor says, "Where's Goldust?" And he says, "Goldust just finished a promo." And Razor runs off. Great job, Doc. You had literally one job. You stood by that fucking door the entire show, waiting for Razor to get some words in, and off he went. Literally,
we went back to you 4 times.
They cut,
and finally,
right. There was even one time they just showed him like pacing back and forth, like he was ready. He was gonna do this, and that's what we got out of it. So bad on you, Doc. You make there's a reason Mean Gene's the best in the business, because he'll get those answers. He won't let you just walk off like that.
Agreed. Doc, you're too much of a nice guy. You got to be a little bit of an asshole like Mean Gene.
That's right. Then we get our main event, Kyle. Isaac Yank versus Undertaker. Kyle, I know you'll be happy to see that Isaac Yankem came out in his full dentist garb.
Yes, I was.
And I think Vince says something about how Isaac Yankem is going to be in more trouble than Hillary Rodham Clinton. So I'm not sure what was going on with the Clintons at this point. But
and they didn't elaborate either.
They did not. No, they did not. This match was okay. I mean,
if it's just okay, it's a good match then, because it had Isaac Yankem in it.
Right. I mean, it was probably one of his better matches, if not his best match I've seen him in.
We should actually start calling him Monday Night Tour's award-winning Isaac Yankem.
Right. I had to laugh when King went to grab the urn, or the quote-unquote urn, which is now, the gold chain. And him and Paul Bear are like fighting over it. The match.
Why now that they have the chain back, or the urn, why can't they just melt that back into an urn?
I don't know. I really wish they would at some point.
The whole thing of Paul Bear walking around in with these gold chains it's awkward.
It is very awkward.
There's nothing about it that spells any kind of menace or anything about the character, and we know that the urn's somewhere. We know they didn't actually melt the urn down, so just say they melted the urn or the chains back into an urn and move on.
Yeah, it'd be very easy to do. I mean, you're already talking that this urn holds the power of the Undertaker in it, so to get us to believe that you melted it down back into an urn is not that far-fetched. But for now, they're going to wrestle over a chain. Ultimately, Taker will win with a tombstone. I gave the match 2 stars, Kyle. It was about the best you get out of Yankum, and I don't think I could have expected much more than this in this main event.
Yeah, I gave it 2.25, and I say that because it made Isaac Yankum capable of being an enhancement talent for a guy like The Undertaker, and it was a good match for The Undertaker. For the most part, he looked pretty dominant. Isaac had a couple of shots in there, but ultimately what we saw was Isaac Yankum has no business being in the ring against The Undertaker, which is also very interesting because of the fact that Bret Hart kind of had a feud with Isaac Yankum. They had that big, long cage match, and it really makes Undertaker look very strong because he kind of squashed Isaac Yankum.
Yeah, that's fair. After the match, Kyle, we do cut to the back. Goldust is about to get interviewed. Of course, you see the distracting Goldust penis, which seems to be a reoccurring thing now.
I'm convinced he has one large testicle.
Razor does come in and attack Goldust. It's a pretty brutal attack in the back, Kyle. I kind of really appreciate it for what it was.
Scott Hall did not relent.
No, he did not.
He did.
Goldust would get a low blow in there at one point, and I just mean he would hit him in the groin, in case we need to specify there.
You might have to, actually, with Goldust.
We cut back to commercial, Kyle, and Sonny is now in a tub and says we did it for almost an hour. And you could see now they're really starting to use sex appeal to sell something on this show. So
you can really feel the tendrils of Vince Russo starting to creep into this product.
Oh, tendrils!
Sure.
Big word there, Kyle.
You're welcome.
And we cut back. They're going to let us know that Goldust and Bret Hart will be wrestling next week on Raw. So that could be a good match. Could be Intercontinental title versus World title, depending on how the Royal Rumble turns out. Mm-hmm. Reminder, Rumble is this Sunday. And then the show itself is going to close out. Goldust is basically trying to leave the arena with a half-packed suitcase, and he's Razor Ramon and him tack. They fight out. They end up battling to the outside. They're pushing each other in snow piles. They almost hit one another with snow shovels. A lot of attacking, rolling around. Ultimately, Goldust is going to get in a car, drive off, and that is Raw. Kyle, what did you think?
This was actually not a half bad go home show for Royal Rumble. Now, maybe the only thing maybe I got a problem with is that we know that the Undertaker's taking on Bret Hart. They're two faces. I feel like they really did not push anything about that match the whole entire time that we know that they're going to. Not even like the Diesel Bret Hart,
I'm not sure
one-on-one
Bret Hart
interview.
Has even been on Raw since we've come back, has he?
That's actually no. I don't think he has. So we're talking 3-4 weeks of not even having Bret Hart on the show. He's your champion. So yeah, I think everybody else has gotten. This has been nothing. This has been 100% Vince trying to make a new superstar in Dustin Rhodes. This is all I see in this, is that this is really being Vince's real attempt of saying, look, I'm really serious in making you into a star, so let's make you a focal point. And I think that's where this is at, is that we do know that the Razor Ramon Goldust match might as well be the main event, because that is what this whole night was about. About that
absolutely
match.
It was. They were pushing that hard.
But I actually did like the show. I think once again we started off with a decent match with two good workers in Jannetty and Hart. We got to watch Austin in his debut match in once again a good enhancement match. You got to see Matt Hardy as a bonus. Obviously, I'm not going to really be a huge fan of the Billionaire Ted War Room stuff unless it gets funnier. Right now, it doesn't seem funny. It seems, like I said before, it just seems petty and childish. They're now that they're actually teasing the War Room shows throughout the production, which I don't like. I would have, the first time they did it, it was kind of like peppered at the very end, like, oh hey, we have this War Room thing at the end. That's what I thought they were going to do, but now they're making it part of the show and teasing it. I don't care for it. And the most important thing is Isaac Yankum for once did not look like a piece of shit in a match. So you know that this this night had to been halfway decent if the main event is Isaac Yankem, and I'm actually okay with it.
Yeah, I think I really enjoyed this Raw for the most part. I mean, it like you said, Owen and Marty had a great opening match. Yankem didn't look half bad in the main event. They pushed Razor and Goldust, and you're really kind of building for that match. And for a go-home show, overall, pretty good. I mean, when the Royal Rumble is your main event, you don't have to push the other title matches as much. I gotta say, Kyle, I was happy with this show, and for me, I don't know about you, I think Raw wins this week.
I do too. I think they had much more structure in what they were trying to promote. This Nitro just felt like, take once again all the big names and just put them on a piece of paper and throw it in the air, and just make the talent. This is one of those things where it was almost like let the talent be what drives the show. And this time it didn't work out well. Whereas on Raw, it's more of let's get the story across. The matches are there. They're there to complement the story. Whereas I feel like there is no story other than the classic can Sting trust Luger, can Macho trust Hogan, and oh, by the way, we got to see the U.S. title. The debut of the Public Enemy wasn't a good one. The American males are getting squashed, which sucks. I think that they are a better tag team right now than most that we've seen on the show. The best match of both shows was definitely Flair and Sting. So I can't completely dog Nitro, but I think from a standpoint of the show as a whole, the production level, and also Sonny was soapy in a bathtub. So I give it to Raw as well.
That said, Nielsen ratings, Kyle, Raw, of course, 2.4 this week, down from a 3 that they had last week, so they lost a little bit. Nitro was a 2.8 last week, Kyle. They went up to a 3.5. So
wow.
Easily 3.0 last week from Raw was the biggest we had seen. Now we got a 3.5, so things are really starting to heat up.
Thank you, Ric Flair.
I have to say, Hulk Hogan and Meng, Kyle, must have put butts in the seats, right?
I mean, apparently. Although I will say, ever since Ric Flair has been world champion, the rings have gone up.
That's true. It's a great point. We'll have to see, Kyle, next week as we get to review the January 22nd, 1996 editions of Nitro and Raw. It'll be the follow-up show to Royal Rumble. We'll have to see how that all plays out. And then, of course, we get Ric Flair and Macho Man Randy Savage on Nitro's main event. And after you watch those, come back, give us a listen. If you haven't subscribed yet, Kyle, we are on iTunes. We are on Google Play. Leave us that rating.
Did you just ask me if I haven't subscribed?
Hey, you and our fans, anybody, if you haven't
even
followed
I'm being called out.
That's right. If you're not following me on Twitter right now, or us, I should say, go follow us on Twitter. Give us a like on Facebook. We're on Instagram at Monday Night Tour for all of those things. And then, of course, you always go to MondayNightTours.com for all of our past episodes, social media accounts, everything you need to do with the podcast. And that's going to be the show this week, Kyle. So for Kyle Hogan, I'm Josh Kaiser, and we will see you next time on the Monday Night Tours.
Have a good Tuesday. See you later.